I'm here with Lynsey from ThreadABead, who's agreed to be one of our guest ambassadors for this year's International Beading Week. You'll know Lynsey for her amazing patterns, including her train and her Christmas village. And Lynsey's going to answer some of our questions today. Thanks for joining us, Lynsey.
Okay.
Can you tell us what are your beading hopes and plans for the next year?
There's a lot of hope. There's not a lot of planning. I start off the year in January. I write down everything I want to do, and then I don't look at it again. And I basically I come up with an idea. I start beading it, and then at the end of beading it, I'm formulating another idea, and I don't tend to work much more in advance on that. So I don't know. I know what my next project is going to be. I don't know what my project after that is going to be. So it's normally at the end of the year, I look back and think, how on earth have I come up with all those designs?
It's quite fluid and flexible. You don't kind of have
I very much do what I feel. So if I'm not feeling something, say maybe I thought maybe I will do it. If I'm not feeling it, I won't do it. I'll do what I want to bead.
I think that's so important. You've got to enjoy what you're working on.
Yes, if you find you're not enjoying a pattern and you're having to finish it, it's not much fun. So I do what I'm feeling.
That sounds really sensible. And when it comes to storage, can you tell us what your storage hacks are? We can see all your lovely boxes behind us. Have you got any tips and tricks for storage?
Well, these are all ThreadABead's kit beads. So these are all the stuff we use in our component pack. So they're not mine. They belong to ThreadABead. For mine, I actually, because I tend to just do delicate beadwork, I have a collection of delicate beads. I have a few fire polished. I don't have much beyond that. And I'm finding lately that it's best not to have too many delicate beads, because you have dye changes. Sometimes if they're out in the sun, they can fade. And I find it's best to only keep what I need for doing the next few projects, or maybe some of the colours that I use a lot. So what I do for storing them is I don't think I have that many delicas for a professional beader, but the ones that I do have, I store in two different ways. I have some that I store, which I use all the time. I store those by the delicate code. So those are the ones where I know what colour I'm using, I know what colour code I need to go to. And then there's the other ones that I don't use that often, and I store those by colour. So, I have like a little box of all the red delicas. So if I find that I don't want to use my standard red colour that I use, then I go into my little box of red colours, and I find that works quite well. So all my beads I tend to store I've got a little set of A4 drawers that are meant for paper, and I store them in little tubes on their side in my A4 drawers. And I find that all my delicas take up about that much space.
Wow, very compact.
Yes.
Wonderful, thank you for sharing. And when obviously you spend a lot of time at the computer designing patterns and things like that, and obviously running ThreadABead. But when you're sitting down and beading, where do you bead, and how do you sit?
Well, I don't tend to bead. This is the office that we use for ThreadABead. I don't tend to bead in the office. I've got a bead tray, and I'll be wherever anybody else is. So it'll either be in the lounge watching the telly, it could be in the kitchen while I'm cooking food, it could be sitting in the garden. So I'll pretty much sit where everybody else is.
Are you a sociable beader? So you like to be have company when you're beading?
Well, I like to be sitting with the family. I wouldn't say I'm particularly sociable, because I'm normally sitting there beading and I have no idea what's going on the telly. But I like to be present.
Excellent, thank you. And groups. So there's been a lot of change with beading groups this year. We've had a real switch from online to face-to-face. Do you go to any groups? Do you attend any groups locally or virtually?
No, I'm pretty much I stay at home and do my beading, and I don't. I'm a solitary beader.
Fair enough. Okay.
I don't do the groups. I know. I mean, there's a lot of ladies that do solitary beading, and then there's some that do a little bit of that and go to the groups. I guess it's just however it fits in with your life, and I find that I don't have a lot of free time, so most of the beading time I have is literally just sitting there designing or writing up patterns.
That's fair enough. And are you part of any online groups, like on Facebook or anything?
No, I'm not very good with social media at all. That's which is quite bad, because my occupation is a software developer. But when it comes to social media, I just have no idea. I mean, some of the ladies that follow us on Facebook, they know that I'm always messing things up, and I'm trying to reply to them and things going wrong, and It's just not one of my fortes.
Right, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. Okay, so this is the tricky one. This is a bead mat spot test. Can you show us what your beading mat looks like right now? No title.
That's quite cruel for a designer to ask that, because a lot of the time I don't actually share my bead mats. I've never done it online. I've never shown photos of it of what I'm working in process, because it's quite scary if you're a designer to say this is what I'm working on at the moment, and this is actually not going to be released before this interview comes out. So I was sort of like, oh dear, what am I going to do? So
You're welcome to cover up the important bits if you need to.
No, it's fine. It's fine. So basically, this is. I was going to say, how am I going to do this? If I tilt it forward, that's what I'm working on at the moment. Is that the right way up? So basically, I'm going full-blown Christmas at the moment. So this, I don't know whether you've ever seen one of these before. They're called knee huggers.
Okay, what's that? I've not heard of that.
No, it's based on a vintage American ornament, which is basically little elves that sit with their little hugging their knees.
Oh, that's very cute. And it's a very tidy bead mat we can see there.
Yeah, to be honest, you've got me at a good time. So I'm quite smug because my bead mat's quite tidy, because I've already done the design. I'm testing the pattern. So I haven't got many colours, and it's actually quite tidy. So I'm quite pleased with myself on that. So I don't know if I show you a little close up of him. He's a little, there you go. So it's, I'm going vintage Christmas this year.
Very cute. Thank you for sharing.
So yes, but any if I go back up here, any ThreadABead beaders out there, don't let anybody else know, because that's a sneak preview.
Thank you for sharing. So obviously as beaders we're always learning and changing. Have you got anything next on your learning wish list, something that you'd like to learn or a technique you'd like to try?
Well, the thing with ThreadABead is that I tend to use either brick, not so much nowadays, but mostly peyote, and that's actually quite a simple stitch. And most of my designs are using peyote, and just it's the way that I use it, attach things together. So it's actually very simple to, there's not a lot to learn. Once you know peyote, it's just really how you transition from one bit of beadwork to the other that makes you design. So with ThreadABead, there's not a lot to learn. Myself, before I started ThreadABead, I used to do a lot of sort of different beadwork. I used to do French wire, I used to do bead embroidery. I used to do lots of sort of different things. I quite fancy doing a bit more bead embroidery now. I don't know whether that will transition back to ThreadABead, but that's something that I fancy doing myself in my own personal time.
That's great to hear. Yeah, cool. Okay, excellent. What do you do? You must have, from all of the beautiful designs you've created, you must have hundreds of teddy bears and villages and things. Do you keep them, or what do you do with the things that you make for yourself and also for ThreadABead?
I don't actually keep anything myself. I have literally I have him, that was the first teddy bear I created. That's the only thing on my desk. Otherwise, I keep one of everything for ThreadABead for photography. So the finished one of every design. But obviously when I'm designing, sometimes you can go between making 5 items when you're designing, or you could make just a couple. And so all the ones that haven't quite made the grade, so they haven't been completed, I'm one of these people that I don't like to see a bead out of place. I don't like to, something's not quite as it should be in the design. I can't look at it. So I tend to give those away to friends and family. And they have little extra bonuses on their Christmas presents. They'll have like a little bit of beadwork of some of my seconds that they're more forgiving of.
That's a lovely idea. That's great.
Yeah, but I don't tend to keep anything myself.
No,
I don't know why. I don't know.
Is your house very Christmassy at Christmas time?
Not particularly, actually. Actually, not. I'm outside. My husband he goes full blown with the Christmas lights, but inside I'm very much a traditionalist. I like my tree with its red and gold and its white lights, and I have like a wreath on the fire, and that's about it, really. So, I'm not that bad. I have I do get the Christmas village out, and I display that. I've got a couple of glass domes, and I display that under there with some little white lights around, and that looks quite nice. But otherwise, I don't tend to decorate a huge amount. But I am quite Christmassy. I like to get into the festive spirit of the Christmas. I like to have Christmas smells around and Christmas music playing, and just have the whole atmosphere of Christmas.
The whole atmosphere. It's weird to be talking about Christmas in summer, but and we know us beaders, we start early, don't we? So
I was going to say, I've already been beading. This is my second, the one on my bead tray is my second Christmas project so far.
very organised.
Yeah, I'm doing Christmas now till Christmas.
And then start again.
Yeah.
So what's the weirdest place you've ever beaded?
Oh, that's the thing, actually. I don't bead in any weird places. I literally don't take my beadwork out of the home. I find because I'm designing all the time, and designing is not the most relaxing thing to do in the world. It can be very, very stressful. And I find that when I do leave the house, it's best not to take the beading with me. So I try and, walk away from it if I go away for a few days, the beadwork, even if I'm getting close to a deadline. Very occasionally I'll take it, but for the majority of the time, I'll always leave it at home and de-stress a bit and enjoy myself and then go back to it.
Fair enough. Yeah, that makes sense. I think that's the thing with designing it. Although it's a passion, it's also still work as well, isn't it?
And it can be frustrating if things aren't going as you need them to go, and if you've got a deadline, it can get frustrating.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? When it's what you love, you don't want it to be stressful, but it definitely can be. When something's not quite working, and you, like, if you're a perfectionist, I know that feeling. You want it to be absolutely right.
It is. I've been known to be stuck on just a few little beads for 3 or 4 days, and I just won't give up until it's perfect. I know the teddy bear nose on my teddy bear pattern, that one I was days on it trying to get the nose perfect, and I was asking people, do you think this looks like a teddy bear nose? And they were going, yeah, that'll do, and I'm going, no, it won't.
But it was worth it because it's absolutely beautiful.
I was pleased with it, actually, because I wanted to go for a traditional style, and I think he looks traditional, and he's so good I've actually kept one myself.
Have you found, obviously we've had a challenging year with lockdown and not being able to see friends and family, have you found there's been any advantages to your beading or your creativity with lockdown?
Oh gosh, that's a difficult one. I know that obviously ThreadABead's online and it's gone all the way through, and I know there's been lots of challenges to keep the business going. There's been lots of supply issues. And I know just as we were going into lockdown, I was finding things quite tough, because obviously when you're doing beading, it's one thing, but running a business as well, you have all the business problems to do. And I was finding before we went into lockdown that things were getting quite, well, I wouldn't say stressful. There was just a lot to do. The more you grow, the more there is to do. And I was finding that I wasn't keeping up with doing component packs, because component packs are very time consuming to do, and I was finding that was getting difficult. So we made a sort of decision to get our heads down, get all the business processes sorted out, and go from there. So we've improved the way we work during lockdown, but in terms of ThreadABead, the beading side of it, I've just continued what I'm doing, just keep coming up with a design and beading it, come up with a design and beading it. I know at one point we were having such supply issues that I couldn't actually release a pattern that month because we just couldn't get the beads in. So I know, there's been challenges, but I know as well that, we've had lots of our customers phoning up and telling us about what's been going on. And I know that beading has been quite a good cathartic thing for them all to concentrate on and say, regardless of what's going on in the world, at least we can sit and concentrate on our beading and have something nice and something we can appreciate at the end of it. And, we've just tried to keep going for them to, keep having patterns to enjoy.
Yeah, it's lovely that you've been able to help facilitate that for other people, especially people who have been shut at home and not be able to see family or get out to shops. And
there's been some of the ladies, some of the things they've been telling us that's been going on has been horrific, what they've been going through. So it's nice that you can be there to help them concentrate on, doing something like beading.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being a part of International Beading Week with us this week. And we look forward to seeing your new designs, including the little chap we just met. So thank you so much for sharing.
Okay, that's no problem.